Right then, another new project. So last week the Ibiza and the CitiGo went. The yard looked a little bit clearer, we had enough parking spaces, and then Scott decided we'd wanted another project car. So it's a Mini. Quite a lot of people guessed when we put the little teaser up on Facebook. Danny tried to ride it a little bit, but I think the colour maybe gave it away more than anything, because there's not many cars in this colour. A few people said Audi S3 and stuff, which I've seen a similar colour, but anyway. So, Mini, everybody's saying, why have you gone for a Mini? Obviously, if you know, you know, but these are basically a BMW engine, so we'll have a look. That's always what I want to talk about first. The engine's the only thing I'm interested in usually, everything else just allows it to happen. So, I've absolutely no idea why it says twin power turbo, because it's not got two turbos. You can just see here, it's a top mounted affair. And that turbo actually is a GTD 1752 VRK, which is the same as what we run on our turbo kits for the 1.6s. I don't like this turbo on the Volkswagen 2 litres, but a lot of that's to do with how the control strategy works. Obviously these have got an electronic actuator and stuff, whereas we're chopping that off and messing about, and that doesn't always work out how we want it to work. But this is basically the same engine. This is a 170 horsepower. But the engine's the same across, I think from the 170s up in the BMWs is this exact spec. There'll be some minor changes, but in essence, if you've got a 1 or a 2 series, everything's the same, including the intercooler. The engine's mounted transversely. So even like intercooler pipework, all that's very, very similar or the same. So any mods that we do to this apply to the 1 and the 2 series front wheel drives. But we've already read this off and going to start making a tune for it, and basically that tune is almost identical. The tune on this Ibiza 170 is almost identical to a 190 horsepower 320D that we did a few weeks ago. I think that did 230 horsepower, something like 225, 230 horsepower. So it's a capable engine. I think compared to like the Mark 7, so this is what's probably more comparable to a Mark 7 sort of chassis, the engine in this seems to breathe a lot better. Obviously like the 125Ds, they're 220s, 230 horsepower standard, and you can push them to knock it on 300, people are claiming. We've not seen that on our dyno, but the engines themselves seem a lot better. The gearbox in this is a manual. You can get them with an auto as well. Whether they can take the pain like the manuals can, because I know this is a strong gearbox. This basically is the same gearbox but with diesel ratios as the John Cooper works. So it's got the bigger clutch and stuff, which I think only the SD got that. So pretty straightforward, not easy to work on in the Minis. There's a lot less room in these than these in the BMWs, but we like a challenge. So I think it looks pretty nice. I think when we take these stickers off, because they're horrible, there's probably going to be a bit of faded paintwork to contend with. And Scott already sorted out getting rid of the chrome. So yeah, the sort of plan, we're not really going to do anything too crazy looks wise. Not going to start adding body kits on and stuff like that, because that's just making it more expensive. The idea, we might end up with a second project, and that might be something a little bit different, but the idea is for, at least for Scott to start with, because he's itching to get out on track, is literally just to put some brakes, tyres, a bit of suspension, remap, whether that means we're going to do some like exhaust modifications. We're definitely going to do an intercooler because these are crap on these. But pretty standardish sort of spec, nothing too crazy. Might even go for an half cage and a bucket seat if he wants to. But literally, he's wanting a car that he can just jump in, drive to a track day, have a nice day smashing round and drive it home. Obviously we've got race cars, we've got daily driver cars, but he wants something that's in between, which is probably more difficult to achieve, something that can do everything, than it is to just have one car. Like the race car is very good at racing, but when you take it on a track day, it's probably a little bit too much. So, and you definitely don't want to, you can't drive it there because it's not even road registered. So we'll see how it all pans out. But I think first job, we'll jump inside, have a look at it, then we'll go for a little drive. So we're out in the Mini. So I have driven this a little bit before, because we had to do a little test drive. We had to do a little test drive when they come and dropped it off. So full tank of fuel. It only holds about, must only be 40 litres or something, 45 litres or something, because it didn't cost a lot of money when I filled it up. Obviously 6-speed manual. It's got all these silly sport modes and stuff. You click this button here, easy to find, and it says maximum go-kart feel sport mode. There's a little rocket there, so it feels fast already. But quite spec'd up. Obviously, being a SD, it is sort of the top spec, so sort of where we sort of drew comparisons sort of to like a Golf GTD. This is nice, it's all black everywhere, got everything you need in it. And the good thing about these as well, they're a couple of 100 kilos lighter than the equivalent sort of Golf Leon. From what we can see online, obviously, the only way to know for sure is to weigh it on the scales with a full tank of fuel or empty tank of fuel and get an accurate comparison that way. But they are lighter, which were one of the selling points. And like we talked about earlier, the engine's got an intercooler rather than a charge cooler, so the cooling on track is a lot more manageable. I don't like charge coolers on track cars. Good for drag cars, not for track cars. But the chassis on these is really good. I don't know what's falling over here. Hopefully nothing too expensive. But even on these crappy tyres, it around this. What's this Amarok doing? Hey-oh. Must be Tom in one of our Amaroks. But this drive's really nice. It's got an armrest that I think, unless you sat on motorway, is far too close to gears. But the seats hold you in nice, so I think, obviously I'm not telling people what to buy, but if you're looking sort of, like this is like an £8,000 car with 85,000 miles, so £8,500 car. So I'm sure this blips on down changes for it as well. Tries rev matching. Don't do it first for some reason. But if you're sort of looking at that sort of around 10 grand mark for a car, this is like 4 or 5 years old, it's not a bad car to buy. It should be good on fuel, obviously not done enough driving to see, and everything in here is pretty much BMW, so it should be decent-ish quality, but enough of it's not BMW as well to be different. So nice car. There's plenty of reviews of the standard cars, so that's not what everybody's come here for. But as far as the plans that we've got for this, I think it should do what we need it to do. Gears changed nice, so that's good. Like a lot of cars, you have to spend a lot of money doing stuff that you probably don't want to do just to get them to be a little bit better, I think. Nice suspension. We're not sure what we're going to get yet. I said to Scott, just try some springs, but he wants to go sort of full coil over, so we're probably going to end up with some like Bilstein B16s or something like that. Wheel wise, the fitment on these is very similar to bigger centre bar, but that doesn't matter on aftermarket wheels. But it's very similar to our Mark 5 race car, and Scott wants them wheels, so they've got 9-inch wheels on ours, so we might try a set of them on. Just see how they fit. Probably a 225 tyre rather than a 235. they're not really going to swallow the 235 too well. It's like 18B8. So yeah, AO52 tyres seem to be what we go to for everything, because they just work. They work in wet, they work in dry. There's definitely better full-blown wet tyres, but as far as driving it to a track and it having a dust in the rain or even a little downpour, you're not going to crash immediately like you would on sort of a Toyo 888 or something like that. The steering feels pretty good. It's quite heavy when you're in sport, a bit too heavy for cruising about. But acceleration, that's like 4th gear at 30 mile an hour. Just straight there, no messing. Seems to want to rev. Brakes feel pretty good, which this has had new discs and pads, but they're just cheap, generic, run-of-the-mill pads, so not the best. We'll see if we can get her. Probably going to turn traction control off. Dynamic traction. Try it all the way off. Might be better. Yeah, completely deactivated. But a manual car trying to launch it, I hate it. So it might not work good. Might just be tons of wheel spin. But we'll get a rough idea. If I wheel spin now, I'll wheel spin when it's tuned as well. Right to like 3,000. Still need 3rd gear for 60. I know where I did wrong there. Wheel spun a little bit too much, revved it a bit too much in 1st. Probably changed up into 3rd a bit too slow, maybe. But that was a 7.9 to 60, which is, it's alright. It's not wet, so it needs to be better than that. And I thought this can do an i6. But I'll tell you what I'll do, I'll put it on dynamic traction control. Then I'll just rev its nuts off. Pardon me. I'll just rev its nuts off and see what it does. I knew it'd be quicker. Sport traction 7.4, which this is not on the original tyres and stuff like that, so there might be a bit of difference in that, but let's do one more run. Quicker between 1st and 2nd again. So that was 7.34 to 60. That's better. Probably cut all other terrible attempts, but sport traction seems to be the one that helps you. It's that initial bit of wheel spin. If you don't have that wheel spin, you've not got the revs there to get it going. So love how tight this chassis feels, which I know a lot of people say they've got a really good stiff body, which works pretty good. So that's what you want in a track car. So hopefully Danny's been able to make this video interesting, but we'll see. Yeah, really happy. New project. Something different for us on the channel, and something different to drive as well, which never hurts. So got a couple more weeks before we get any more track days, so it's going to be a while. It'll seem like a while before we get a chance to unleash this properly. I'm sure it'll come around pretty quick. So cheers, thank you for watching.